fans, welcome back. If this is your first time, I hope you'll stay. Espero que te quedes. Now, today we're looking at everything grammar. So we're looking at todos los tiempos verbales en español. Pero todos, toditos. Okay, we're looking at absolutely all the grammatical tenses in Spanish, and I'm going to explain to you just in case you haven't seen such an explanation before. Okay, so when we're talking about tiempos gramaticales, we're talking about tenses. So the different tenses we use in a language when we want to express ourselves. Now, in Spanish, you have different modos, okay, different moods. The first one is el indicativo, which is the indicative. And you would use the indicative to talk about things that are real, facts, or routines. Everyday life, we would use the indicative to express ourselves. Then we have the subjunctive mood, el modo subjuntivo, which we would use to express ourselves when we want to talk about things that are less real. So wishes, desires, emotions, and all of those good stuff. Then we have el modo imperativo, which is the imperative. We use the imperative for one thing, to give orders. So that's a nice, easy one. And additionally, you have tres modalidades temporales. So with these forms, you would have already seen them. You have el infinitivo, which is the infinitive. In English, the infinitive is quite easy. To dance, to sing, to run. In Spanish, you recognize the infinitive because the verbs that end in AR, ER, or IR. Unconjugated. It's not in any tense at all. It's just the word, the root of the word. And then you would have gerundio, which is gerund, ing for us, run in, dancing, playing, the ing. In Spanish, if the verb ends in and, it would be ando, or if it's ir or er, it will be yendo, okay, corriendo. And then lastly, we have el participio, which is the past participle, which in English for us, it can end in ed, or it could be irregular, such as made or done, so many others. Okay, and so with that, I'm going to just go over all the tenses that we have in the indicative. I've chosen to use the verb hablar, which is to speak. And so guys, this is all of the possibilities, all the different ways you can say I speak in Spanish. Speak. Look, all these different ways is just saying I speak English. So that's the sentence we're going to use. Speak English. I speak English. I'm only doing the first person because I think if you have the list of your subjects, you should be able to have a go at this yourself and see all the other subjects. Yo hablo. Okay, but obviously you know you can conjugate that. Tú hablas, él habla, ella habla, nosotros hablamos, vosotros habláis, ellos hablan, and so on. We're just using I today, okay? Otherwise we're going to be here forever. And I know you have places to go. I know you have things to do. So for today, it's just I speak English, and these are all the ways you can say it in the different moods in Spanish. Are you ready? Because that was a rather long intro. Let's get into it. Okay, so in the indicative, the first one we're going to say in the present simple, we would say present simple. For them, it's the same, el presente. We would say, yo hablo inglés. In English, I speak English, okay? Yo hablo inglés. The present continuous would be, yo estoy hablando inglés. I am speaking English, right? Then we would have el presente perfecto. Yo he hablado inglés, okay? I have spoken English, present perfect. Remember, the present perfect requires the verb to have. He hablado. Okay? Next, el pretérito imperfecto. Yo hablaba inglés. So the imperfect, in English we would say used. I used to speak English. Yo hablaba inglés. Okay? Implying that you don't now. Right? Or maybe you still do, I don't know. Pretérito pluscuamperfecto. Yo había hablado inglés. Okay? I had spoken English. Okay? Yo había hablado inglés. Okay? El perfecto simple. Okay? So that's for us the past simple. The past simple would be hablé inglés. I spoke Spanish. So yesterday, ayer hablé español, hablé inglés. Yesterday, I spoke English. Hablé. Next, el pretérito anterior. Hube hablado inglés. And I have to be honest with you, I almost never use el pretérito anterior, if I'm going to be honest, because it translates to the same thing as the pluscuamperfecto in English. So I tend to use this one and hardly ever el anterior. Casi nunca. And I don't hear it as much, I'm going to be honest. But I have to tell you so you know it exists. Es un tiempo verbal que sí existe, so that's why it's on the board. Okay? So that's it. The next one, number 7, we have el futuro simple. So the simple, the future simple. Hablaré. I will speak English. Hablaré inglés. Followed by el futuro compuesto. Yo habré hablado inglés. I will have spoken English. Habré hablado inglés. Okay? Again, the auxiliar from the verb haber, to have. I will have. Habré hablado. I will have spoken English. Okay? Next, condicional simple. Yo hablaría. Okay? And it normally goes with an if clause. So, hablaría, yo hablaría, sí. So I would speak if they'd let me, okay? Yo hablaría. And the condicional compuesto, yo habría hablado inglés, okay? I would have spoken English. I would have. Yo habría hablado inglés. Okay, so these are the 10 different ways you can express this sentence in Spanish in the indicative mood. Okay, now we're going to go over and we're going to look at how you would express the same sentence but in the subjunctive. Okay, so in the subjunctive there are 6 ways you can phrase this. So the first one, it would be in the present. And if you've noticed, I've put que a lot of the time to remind you that in the subjunctive, we almost always use que. Not all the time, but que is your keyword to remind you that there are normally 2 clauses and 2 different subjects. So there you go. Right, subject. El presente. Yo, so it'll be yo hablo inglés, okay? Él quiere que hable inglés. He wants me to speak English, que hable inglés, that I should speak English. He wants me to speak English. Él quiere que hable inglés. So he wants me to speak English. So again, it's a desire. Okay? I'm not going to do a sentence for all of these because you know it needs to have at least 2 subjects. Okay? Right. So el pretérito perfecto sería yo haya hablado inglés. Okay? Yo haya hablado inglés. El pretérito imperfecto sería yo hablara o hablase. There are 2 conjugations for the subjunctive, for the imperfect in the subjunctive. Hablara, so ending with AR or ASE. Okay? Que yo hablara. Yeah? Él quería que yo hablara inglés. Okay? Que yo hablara. That I speak. Again, they have so many more structures in English where we would only have 1. So in that way you have a lot more choices in Spanish because there are a lot more ways of expressing the same idea. Okay? Next, el pretérito pluscuamperfecto would be yo hubiera o again, hubiese hablado inglés. Okay? El futuro sería yo hablaré, but without the accent on the E. Okay? If the verb is ER or IR instead of ARE ending, it would be IERE. Okay? For example, viviere. Okay? This one is a little bit difficult for us, so if you're not sure, just have a little look at that. But again, this is not one of the most typical or the most used tenses, but still, just in case you see it, you will recognize that it's the future. It's the future simple in the subjunctive. Right. And in el compuesto, el futuro compuesto sería yo hubiere hablado. Okay? Again, I don't use this a lot in the subjunctive. There are things that you can get away without using just because they're used less. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, the ones that you absolutely need to know are the basics. The present simple from the indicative, the present perfect. Actually, I would say all of these except presente anterior. All of the others, I would say you would use every day and you would need to know them. But for over this side, I would say the future, you probably won't use it as much, okay? But once you get going, it'll all be okay. Right, the imperative, when we're talking in the first person, you wouldn't really need it. Why? Well, you don't give yourself orders, do you? I wouldn't say, hey, Kerry, get up and do that. Because then it changes into the third person anyways. Okay, so there isn't a first person because it's normally in the tú, because I'm talking to you, so it's tú, okay? Tú habla inglés, okay? Habla inglés, like I'm saying, talk English, okay? Talk English, you're an English lesson, talk English. Or I would say to the class, hablad, like hablad inglés, okay? Like the lot of you. So I would add a D to make it hablad. Yeah, and that's the order. That's how we know it's the imperative. I'm giving you an order. I'm demanding that you speak in English. Okay? And also in usted form, you just add the en. You take off the ar of the verb hablar and change it to en. Okay? Hablen inglés. Hablen inglés. Usted, which is the more formal way of addressing someone. Okay? And of course, we have the three modalidades temporales. So, with these other three forms, as I explained before, you have the infinitive, which is my original verb, which was hablar. So, in infinitive, there will be hablar, hablar, which is, in English, the infinitive is to speak, hablar, to speak. Unconjugated, just the way it is. In gerundio, in the gerund form would be hablando. Hablando. So it's ando. Remember, if it's a verb that ends in ER or IR, it will be yendo, viviendo, viviendo, or bebiendo, drinking, bebiendo. And el participio would be hablado, spoken. Hablado. Okay? So, estas son las tres modalidades temporales: infinitivo, gerundio y participio. Okay? So, that is it. With your conjugations, all the conjugations that you need to know is on the board. So, remember, there are 10 different ways you can conjugate a verb in the indicative, okay? And there are 6 ways to do it in the subjunctive. And then you have the imperative, which gives orders, and then 3 additional forms of changing your verbs. So the infinitive, that's untouched, the gerund, which is adding ing, and the past participle, or the participle, which is, it can be regular or irregular. In English, the participles normally end in ed, or you'll just have to memorize the verb if it's irregular, like to know, known, to make, made, to go, gone. So in English, I think it's a little bit harder for ESL students because there are so many irregular verbs, and so in the participle, it's a little bit more difficult for foreign students. But that is the joy of language learning. Okay, I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please share and also let me know what you're struggling with, and if I can help, I will do so by posting a video. Okay, with that guys, I'm going to say take care until next time. Bye.